Hey guys, welcome back to another video. We're doing the second episode of the podcast today. I'm here with Noah and Nate again, so I'm just gonna let Noah take it from here because today is his episode.
Yeah, so today we're doing Django Unchained, directed by Quentin Tarantino, of course. It's a 2012 Western and action film, and it takes place 2 years before the Civil War. And I kind of chose it just because Tarantino, one of my favorite filmmakers, and this is one of the few films of his that I haven't watched. So I kind of like having a first watch for a lot of these movies on the podcast. So I mean, last week Fury was my first watch, so kind of wanted to also get a new movie in here this week too, and just kind of going over like a brief like overview of the film, what it's about. So like I said, it's kind of a couple of years before Civil War, and a slave named Django, he finds himself with a German bounty hunter named Dr. King Schultz, and they get on a mission to capture the Brittle brothers, and that mission ends up being successful. And eventually, Django and Schultz team up to carry out other missions, other bounties, and eventually Schultz agrees to help Django save his wife from a plantation, and they have a whole elaborate plan and stuff that we can get into once I kind of explain the plot, once we get into that part of the podcast. But Django is able to, or Django and Schultz go to save his wife from this plantation. And that's so I want to kind of just get into like, just ask you guys your general thoughts of the film first before we get into the detailed parts where I'm going over like some of the things to go over here. So like the acting and the dialogue, then going over the plot, kind of similar to how we did last episode, where I kind of just explain like scene by scene and we give our thoughts and some of that stuff. And then we can go into the characters, cinematography, music, and then our favorite scenes. And then we'll end it off with our overall thoughts and a score out of 5. So right here, I just want to ask you, like, what are your general thoughts on the film, like your first impressions and stuff?
Nate, how do you say the name of this movie?
Django.
Okay. After the Michael after the Michael Pena debacle, I had to make sure. But Nate, if you want to go first, you can go ahead.
It's Tarantino, obviously one of the most talented filmmakers of our generation. Excuse me. Overall, it's like this is my second watch of this film. I enjoy it a lot. It is a long watch. It's definitely a slog to get through. You definitely have to like plan your day around watching this movie, but overall, like there's a lot of really good things about this film. Like I don't really have many complaints about it, to be completely honest.
I think the best thing about this movie, honestly, I really like this movie. I think this was either my second or third watch of it. I want to say my third. But this movie, it's a really easy movie to pause throughout, because it feels like it's kind of segmented into chapters. So if it's a movie that you have to watch in two, 3 different settings, it doesn't feel like you're losing the story necessarily, which that's a problem with a few other movies.
That's fair. I definitely I don't disagree with that. It's definitely something you can kind of like pop in and out of.
That's kind of
Like,
all Tarantino is, though, because it's like it's not, this one's different where it's not directly organized in chapters, so it still kind of feels like that. But like a film like Pulp Fiction or Kill Bill is literally like segmented into chapters like that. So Tarantino's always kind of been like this. But this is interesting because this is like the first movie I've seen from him where he actually has like a full like linear story that is in chronological order, whereas his other stuff is kind of all around and stuff.
Yeah. Like, this is a movie, I mean, like, I was kinda, because I'd seen it so many times, I was kinda, like, offhandedly watching it because the US played Serbia today, so I was watching that, at the same time, and I'm like, because I knew what happened, but it's still, like, I was paying attention more to the movie than the game because it just kept bringing me back to it, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is a lot of Tarantino is like that, like chapter based. Because I'm very critical of Pulp Fiction. It's not my favorite Tarantino, but it is one of those things where it's kind of just like, I don't want to say randomly set, but like you can definitely tell it's not chronological.
Mhm.
And like, so my favorite Tarantino is, of course, Inglorious Bastards, because of course it would be the
Of
World War
course.
II Brad Pitt movie.
You got a thing for World War II Brad Pitt movies.
But and granted, it has been quite a while since I've seen Glorious Bastards, but I do believe that one's also kind of like shot out of order, where like the scenes don't really line up with the overall
I,
overarching story.
mhm. I think this and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood are the only ones he has that are like a completely linear story. I guess no, Reservoir Dogs maybe, kind of,
No,
possibly a little bit
Reservoir Dogs is still kind of it's not
segmented.
really fully chronological. It's just I feel like it's not
Oh
as
yeah,
many chapters as like a Pulp Fiction would.
because there's so
Right.
many
It's a lot more
flashbacks in
simple.
it.
Yeah, it's a lot more simple.
I mean, I guess you could say this is really chronological either, because there was a good amount of flashbacks in this movie.
I mean, but that's not really as long as like some of his other stuff. So like
Right.
there are years of flashbacks, but it's not really like like Pulp Fiction is literally like out of order and stuff, and Reservoir Dogs has stuff that's literally out of order and all that, and it's not a
And I
flashback that
guess
we have
with
a whole fleshed out scene on.
I
Hmm.
guess with this one too, like it's kind of obvious where it is a flashback, whereas with some of his other films, it's kind of like, did this happen after? Like, did this happen before? Like, I
Yeah,
feel that way watching Pulp Fiction, which is one of the reasons why I'm so critical of it, because I feel like it's a very hard film to follow.
Mm.
I mean,
It definitely
for
is.
I mean on first watching kind of be, but for me, I really picked up on it, and it still didn't really affect how much I love that film. But again, we're gonna do a Pulp Fiction episode inevitably, so we can talk about that in the future,
Yeah.
obviously.
Yeah, I guess it is kind of. I do agree where it's that chronological order, because a lot of these like flashbacks, if there's like three or four of them throughout the whole movie, and a lot of them are back from when Django was doing his time as a slave, and you could really like, it's very obvious that they are flashbacks. Where some of his other films are, it's not quite as obvious.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say for just like kind of what I wrote down for my general thoughts, it's just overall, I really liked it. It's just you get Tarantino's great dialogue as usual. His direction is fantastic, and I mean, it's really incredible how he can make a scene like for example, like the whole dinner scene at the plantation or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
That whole thing lasts for like 20 minutes, and it keeps you engaged throughout it all because of how well written it is. And I really like all the characters in this, the arcs that you go through, especially with Django. And I mean, I do agree with Nate that I feel like the film is a little bit too long. I don't feel like it needed to be nearly 3 hours. I feel like it could have been cut down to like 2 hours, 25 minutes or something like that. And I thought the pacing wasn't the greatest. However, I do think it still didn't really affect how I enjoyed it. And overall, it's just it's a great film in Tarantino's filmography. It's not my favorite one. There's a couple others I have over it, obviously, but it's still a great film.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a very good film, and overall, I just so going back to like the general thoughts, I was telling this to Ryan before the podcast started, where when I was rewatching it yesterday. I was like, I was sitting down, I was like, there's a lot of memes that we took from this movie, and I guess that's kind of just Tarantino's style, because a lot of his movies are very quotable.
Yeah,
But it was just something that I really thought was a little bit funny when I was watching.
yeah, yeah. Um, Also, something interesting with the dialogue is that fun fact this film has the most N words of any film ever. So
Yep, the most uses of that word through any film in history.
and and you could say it's Tarantino's favorite word because I think Ryan told us before the podcast 3 of the top 5 most N word uses in a film are from Tarantino.
Yep,
Yeah, it's
yep.
one is this movie, two is Blazing Saddles, and then three and four are Hateful Eight and Pulp Fiction, and then that one Spike Lee movie is the fifth.
Yeah, it's definitely. I think. I mean, for a film like this, it kind of makes sense, because it's
Yeah,
more used as a plot device. Yeah,
but
like when this film takes place. But for some of those other films, it's a little
like
suspect.
Like Pulp Fiction. Like why did Pulp Fiction need that? Like Pulp Fiction. I think that just takes place present day when the film was made in like the 90s. So I don't think they said
Yeah.
it that much in the 90s. I mean, they definitely said it, but not that much.
I think half of the uses of that word are the Quentin Tarantino scene in that movie.
Yeah, Tarantino made his own character to say that word because he loves it so much. But what do we think about Tarantino's cameo in this one, though, with the Australian accent?
He is the worst
Probably
Australian
the
actor
worst.
ever.
If I'm being so honest, I did not know that they were supposed to be Australian until you came in right before we started and said they were supposed to be Australian.
I knew one.
like I could tell what he was trying to go for, but he failed with that.
I knew he was doing some sort of foreigner accent, but like I could not piece it together what it was supposed to be.
I thought he was just doing some fucking goofy Quentin Tarantino voice. I couldn't even tell he was doing an accent.
Yeah, that was it's quite an interesting scene, but I think that kind of does it for general thoughts. Unless anybody else wants to add anything here.
General thoughts? No, not really.
No, I think I've pretty much summed up my general thoughts as well.
Good movie.
So we all
Yeah,
like
good
it.
movie. I mean, it's
Common
Tarantino, of
Tarantino
course.
W. Yeah, but
Like, as critical as I am of Pulp Fiction, it's still objectively a fantastic film.
Mhm.
I'll always talk about being critical of Pulp Fiction. That'll be an interesting episode.
Oh, I love how we
Bro.
talked about. I love how we talked more about Pulp Fiction so far in this episode than we have.
I mean,
why have we talked about Pulp Fiction more than this actual movie?
I mean,
Hey
I
guys,
feel like
welcome to
that's.
the Pulp Fiction review.
Hey guys, no, actually we've changed this to Pulp Fiction. We catfished you with Django Unchained.
I feel like when you're talking about Tarantino, I feel like it's just so easy to bring up his other work, just because they're all so very similar in the way he directs.
Mm-hmm.
And
But,
who knows? Maybe I'll become less critical of Pulp Fiction on a second watch because I have not watched it since my first watch.
how long was that ago?
I'd say probably
It's
3 or
probably
4
like
years ago by now.
he's probably like 6 years old, and that's why he couldn't understand it.
Yeah, no wonder why he's complaining about the way the story was told. All right, we're getting off track. So the first thing I want to go into is just I'm gonna combine like acting and dialogue together in the same section because they're very much related to each other with that. But first, I'm just gonna like go over the cast and kind of their performances and stuff. So obviously Django, played by Jamie Foxx, he had a fantastic performance. I feel like he does a great job at portraying the change in his character when he gets more and more confident and bold as the film goes on, and as he gets more used to being a free man. And I really like the early scenes. You can see like his fear as a slave, and then slowly but surely getting more confident and bold until obviously in the final scene where he blows up the house in the plantation. And I feel like it was just very satisfying with that, and his performance overall was great, and he was well casted, perfect for the role. And then Dr. Schultz, my favorite character, and we can get into that when we talk about just the writing for the characters themselves. But Christopher Waltz played Dr. King Schultz, and his performance is so entertaining. I really love all the scenes where. Go on.
You're turning into Nate. You're turning into Nate now.
It's Christoph Waltz, not Christopher.
Yeah, it's not Christopher. He's German.
Oh, Christoph
So-
Waltz.
We're gonna mispronounce a name every episode.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. That's the meme. So yeah. But anyway, Christoph, whatever. Fantastic performance. Very entertaining with it, and I really like all the scenes where he has to like de-escalate a situation, like when they're like early on in the film when they're in that town or whatever, just after he freed Django, and there's all the guns pointed at them from all the townspeople. And I really like his performance during that scene where he's trying to calm them down and get himself out of that situation. And there's another one similar to that where I think when they kill like the Brittle brothers on that plantation, and kind of similar way where he goes through that. And I also when Calvin Candy is killed, that's a great scene, and he delivers those lines so great where he's like, "If you insist," and then goes to shoot him instead of shaking his hand. I thought that was one of the standout scenes, and the performances in that were great. And then you get into Calvin Candy, Leonardo DiCaprio, and that's the best performance of this film. DiCaprio is one of my favorite actors, and he gives an amazing performance as a guy who's just pretty much pure evil. But it's also like he's a pure evil guy, but then you kind of realize he actually has like some good manners in some of these scenes when he's greeting these people, and that just kind of adds like layers of this character. Where it's like obviously it's not like completely like comically evil, where he still has like kind of some humanity you can think when he's being well mannered in some of these scenes, but obviously he's extremely evil, and he runs this whole business with the having these slaves fight to the death, which is absolutely just pure evil. And DiCaprio being able to play a character like this, I'm sure it must have taken a toll on him having to portray a character like that, but he portrays it so well and is such a terrifying villain. And in the scene, in the dinner scene on the plantation, where he slams the table and then cuts his hand on glass, and that it's a pretty well-known story where that wasn't in the script, and he just went with it when he accidentally cut his hand on that, and he's bleeding. His hand is bleeding throughout the scene, and he's still able to give an amazing performance and deliver the lines in that scene so well. I thought that was extremely impressive. And then Broomhilda, Django's wife, is played by Kerry Washington, and she did a great job just conveying the fear throughout this when she's surrounded by Calvin Candy and all these other people on this plantation. And it's just her facial expressions and all that. You can tell just how fearful she is. And then the character, Stephen, played by Samuel L. Jackson, kind of Calvin Candy's right-hand man a little bit. He's kind of just this like Uncle Tom character where dude is racist against his own people, and Samuel L. Jackson just plays his character so well. And a standout part of it is when Calvin Candy dies, and he's kind of just holding him when the whole shootout after that ensues. And I thought Samuel L. Jackson just played this character so well, and Samuel L. Jackson in so many Tarantino movies, and every time just gives such a great performance. And
he is
then
absolutely distraught.
Yeah.
Leonardo DiCaprio's character dies. He's like screaming like he just lost his wife.
Exactly. Dude was always right by Calvin Candy the entire time too. It's crazy how much I love that man.
There was hardly a scene. No, go ahead. Sorry.
He definitely just lost his gay lover, and that's why he was screaming.
Dude, I was about to make that joke, bro.
No, there was very rarely a scene from before Calvin Candy's death where Samuel Jackson and Leonardo DiCaprio are not on screen together. The only ones that really stand out to me is when they first meet Candy in the bar in town, and then when he's like kind of berating Boomhilda because he found out that Django and Boomhilda know each other.
Yeah, really like
other than those two, I'm pretty sure they're always on screen together.
Samuel L. Jackson's gonna be laying in his bed like that Wolverine meme with just a picture of DiCaprio.
Well, too bad Django kills him at the end. Oh no, spoiler alert.
No, you spoiled the movie. I didn't finish it.
No, we did. We're doing like a 2-hour, hour and a half, whatever podcast on the movie, and oh no, we spoiled it, guys. We should have had a spoiler warning. But yeah, and another part I really like with Samuel L. Jackson's character is when they actually finally get to the Candyland plantation, and this he plays this part so well where he's just completely bewildered seeing Django on a horse like that because dude is so racist against black dudes as a black guy. Yeah, bro, they're serving out friendly fire with this stuff. Like, it's crazy.
He's like the dude from the Boondocks.
Uncle Ruckus.
He kind of looks like him too, to be completely honest.
Hold on. What if you're dude is? Hold on, I gotta pull up a photo of Uncle Ruckus. Loki, what if he was inspired by Uncle Ruckus?
I wouldn't be surprised.
Wait,
Yeah,
what was that show?
that seems like something Tarantino would do, or maybe Uncle Ruckus was inspired by Steven.
Probably not. The Boondocks came out like 6
No,
years
yeah.
before this movie.
Yeah, Boondocks started in 2005. So maybe the character Steven is inspired by Uncle Ruckus.
No, the guy
That-
the guy who made the Boondocks just went into the future and he watched this movie.
Okay, what else could what other moments were pretty standout here?
There
You know,
is
I feel
one
like
thing that I wanted to bring up. So you mentioned Kerry Washington, and her performance was great. And I
yeah,
actually, so I did a little bit of background research on the movie. So there's that scene where she's in the hot box, right when
yeah,
Django and Dr. Schultz get to the plantation. So I saw that she was so like into the movie, and like she was so like she was so into her performance that she had demanded to Tarantino that she get put in an actual hotbox for like hours before that scene happened, just so that she could convey the actual like horror of being inside there.
it's crazy.
Wow.
Me personally,
Like,
if I'm an actor, I'm not doing all that.
so shout out Kerry Washington because
Yeah,
that's way too much dedication.
that is yeah.
Not
That's
she wanted to get the water weight off in the sauna. That's what she was trying to do.
Oh my lord!
oh my gosh.
I think we're actually gonna have to cut that one out.
Yeah,
Post pump sauna session.
And of course,
yeah.
the glass scene with Leo DiCaprio, like the fact that he's able to not only like he physically injured himself on set, he was able to keep with character the entire time. Like just fantastic performance by him.
I feel like
Mhm.
if I was acting in that moment somehow, let's just imagine I was somehow an actor and I cut my hand on glass like that and I start bleeding, like right away I'm gonna just attend to that. But dude stays in character the whole time. I'm so impressed by that.
Yeah,
I'm
and
gonna
Christoph
start
Waltz.
crying.
Sorry,
I
sorry,
start
I didn't mean to.
crying.
No, like you got to think like, what would you do in that situation? Like I'm sitting there, I'm like in this great scene that's already been going on for a while. You can't do
Mhm.
another take because it's already like a 25-minute scene. You smash
Mhm.
your hand on the table, you cut your hand, and you're just like, fuck.
I'd start crying like Samuel L. Jackson did when Calvin came.
So shout out Leonardo DiCaprio for another great performance.
Mhm.
And then Christoph Waltz, I think he was my favorite performance. I know how you said
Yeah, he was mine.
DiCaprio was your favorite performance, but just
Yeah.
Waltz's line delivery with like some of these scenes, like I mentioned how memed this movie was, but like the scene where they're in the saloon and he's just sitting there, and he's like, it's like a reward. Like all of his line
Yeah.
delivery is just it's so fantastic with every single piece of dialogue he was given. Like he's just
Mhm.
he's such this humorous character. Like he's got those German mannerisms, like when they blow up his cart and he's just like Auf Wiedersehen. It's And I'm sitting there, I'm just like, it's such a serious movie. Like I'm just sitting here laughing anytime I see him on screen.
Yeah, he was
Yeah.
really good.
I think yeah, he was definitely my second favorite, like right behind DiCaprio. Those two performances were the standouts here.
I don't know, man. Jonah Hill was a pretty good performer.
we're gonna get into that scene, or at least I am, because I want that's serious.
I am too. I really enjoyed that scene.
I cannot wait to talk about that scene.
And then of course Jamie Foxx. I think in a movie with such standout performances, I think his stood out the least to me. Not to say like he had a bad performance because
I mean,
he had a great performance.
because I feel like it's just because he isn't as vocal as the other guys, you know. I mean, Christoph Waltz and
Right.
DiCaprio have so many different lines and all that, and Django is kind of this more like stoic character in a lot of these situations.
Right, and so that's not a knock on his performance because he still had a fantastic performance. I just kind of like Michael Pena. He kind of just stood out the least to me.
Hey, you got it right.
Yeah. And then Samuel L. Jackson. There's not much more I think I can say about that because he's very one-dimensional character. I think.
Mhm.
I mean,
Again,
it's still effective. Still effective.
not to
Yeah,
say
I feel
that
like
not
it's
to knock.
definitely intentional.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not to knock Samuel L. Jackson for that because he played that very well. But there's not much more that I can add.
I mean, it is because also he has a side character, so kind of
Yeah,
hard to make a side character.
for being a side character, he definitely like he was there. Like his presence was felt.
Yeah, always by DiCaprio's side.
Yep, always there. He had to make sure he got his screen time.
And I think now we can just that can transition to like the dialogue. So Tarantino, of course, such entertaining and engaging dialogue where like so many scenes are just like characters just sitting and talking, but Tarantino can do that so well and keep you engaged throughout the entire thing. And every line has meaning. It's interesting. And I mean, there's so many great scenes. We can go through them. I mean, you can point to some of the dialogue in the one scene with Jonah Hill and all those guys. That's absolutely hilarious.
We will get there because I would really like to talk about that scene because that's probably my favorite scene in the film.
Bro really stole it from me, huh?
My bad.
That's it. That's all right. But I mean, there's
Sorry if you heard that, guys.
What?
I said sorry if you heard that. Just cracked open a nice Dr. Pepper. Not hashtag not sponsored.
Yeah, not sponsored, but
Yeah,
Coke. Coca-Cola, if you want to sponsor us, I'll absolutely take a free shipment of Dr. Pepper.
Dr. Pepper is not owned by the Coca-Cola company, but all right.
Is it not? I thought they were.
No.
My bad. Dr. Pepper, if you want to sponsor us.
Yeah, and I think.
Anyways.
So Christoph Waltz's character, Dr. Schultz, has a lot of great lines and stuff. I really love the part with before he kills Calvin Candy, where it's like, "You want me to shake your hand if you insist." Really, really great moment right there. And I mean, also obviously the performance there elevates it, but it's just a great line of dialogue there, and there's a lot of memorable moments with the dialogue.
I think my favorite like use of the dialogue, and this kind of like Tarantino's specialty too, when he has like the zoom in, like he zooms in on the character's face, or like it's quick camera movements.
It's goofy ass zoom in.
Yeah, so I like that's one of the Tarantino-isms that I really enjoy, just because it kind of portrays that like goofiness of the director. It's kind of like like a Sam Raimi zoom in, where like he loves to like zoom in on eyeballs, which is a little weird, but it's just that that mannerism of the director.
Or with how Sam Raimi really loves having women scream in his movies too.
Yeah, that too. But I think my favorite instance of that was when they were all on the horses, like traveling to the plantation, and there's the one slave in the tree, and Leonardo DiCaprio was like, "Well, who's gonna reimburse me that $500?" And Dr. Schultz is like, "Oh, I'll do it," and then it just zooms in on Leonardo DiCaprio's face. He's got that like goofy smile. He's like, "You will?"
He's like, "Let's go."
And it's just some of that like Tarantino dialogue where like it not only is it the dialogue, but it's also the camera work that really brings it home for me.
Here's something else I was thinking during that scene, which is kind of funny. So it's like, so DiCaprio paid $500 for this guy, right? So I was thinking like, okay, so you got him to, so you used him for like a few months, right? Why would he have to reimburse you $500? So clearly DiCaprio, that just shows how money hungry the dude is. He couldn't even be fair and be like, you could have been reimbursed like $200, so you still got something out of this dude. But nah, another reason why Calvin Candy is not a great guy. Okay.
No,
I don't think
not a
that's
great
the
guy.
biggest reason, but it's definitely a reason.
It's a reason. It's a reason.
It's definitely
But
one of the reasons.
There are plenty of reasons. I mean, I could probably list out all the reasons on a whole page document. Okay, like I had a lot of notes, and
I don't think we're gonna do all that.
Had one on Calvin Candy, but yeah. But there's
Guys,
plenty of evil things Calvin Candy does, especially with he literally has dogs rip apart the dude that wasn't that nobody was able to pay for there because Django.
Powerful scene, by the way.
Guys, I think this movie might be telling us that slavery is bad.
Wow, did you need a movie to tell you that?
I mean, it's just like Fury. Do we need a movie to tell us war is bad?
Well, obviously, because that was the takeaway of the last episode.
Ryan really thought war and slavery was great before these 2 episodes. Good thing he's learning though.
For
Thank
legal
you,
reasons,
Fury
that's a
and
joke.
Django.
For legal reasons, that's a joke.
Ryan is an upstanding citizen. Clearly, when he watched these things, we're just joking around. So yeah. Anyway,
I actually directed both Django and Fury, so I could tell the whole world that slavery and racism were bad.
so you're the one that wrote the N-word 100 times in the script?
No, I directed it. I didn't write it.
Oh, okay. And I mean, it kind of the whole N-word part we could mention in the dialogue, man. It's pretty crazy how much that's used here. But that is the time of slavery and all that. And I guess I go on.
Sorry. 2 years before the Civil War, which is not actually when this movie
takes
place.
So it said 1858, 2 years before the Civil War. Actually, it's 3.
Actually, that's 3 years before the Civil War.
Actually, the Civil War started in 1861. Tarantino, come on now.
I do think it's a little funny how this movie is 12 years old and nobody's called him out on that I can think of.
We are breaking
who
news
cares?
now.
Guys, Tarantino made a mistake with math, and we need to point it out.
Well, to be fair to him, at the beginning of the movie, they have the
Hey,
part
math
where
is hard, guys.
it is, but they have the point where Django and Schultz are catching bounties all winter, and then a majority of the movie does take place after that winter. So you can assume the majority of this movie takes place in 1859, which is 2 years before the Civil War. So it's just messed up in the beginning.
Yeah, but
When
the first time
say-
it card was 1858, 2 years before the Civil War.
Civil War.
It happens.
Hey,
Math is hard.
Math is tough.
Or maybe time's just different in Texas. Who knows?
Yes.
That's true.
Or
I mean,
maybe
didn't the film take place in Missouri?
The beginning takes place in Texas.
No,
well, it's also Mississippi.
It's Mississippi. Yeah.
Oh, is it Mississippi? My bad.
Yeah. Common activities in Mississippi still going on today.
Yeah, it's where our good friend friend of the podcast, Jack, lives.
Yeah. He hates it there.
Who doesn't?
Okay, so if anybody here is from Mississippi, why do you live there? Just a little question.
We apologize for your loss.
Yeah. If you were born there, I apologize. If you chose to live there, that's your fault.
If they live in Mississippi, they can't afford the internet to listen to this podcast.
Ouch.
Yeah, because they got the. Was it something crazy with the minimum wage? There's like $7. Jack said.
Yeah, it's something. Like
sounds about right.
Jack was getting ripped off and getting very little money. So, to all the people in Mississippi, if you were even watching this, if you have internet, we're sorry for your loss with your money.
We'll donate all the money from the Patreon to him to
the Patreon. All right. I think we're getting a little off track here.
Plot.
We're kind of just transitioning the plot. So okay.
Do we want to talk about like cinematography or anything like that before we get into the plot?
Well, we can do that after we don't, because that's kind of I kind of ended off with.
Remember, what? Nate doesn't know what cinematography means. So.
Yeah, Nate doesn't. So Nate, cinematography means camera angles and lighting.
Yes, I know.
So we talk about that a little later. And then I'm gonna so we go plot, and then we go characters, then cinematography, then music, and then favorite scene, and then overall thoughts and score.
Did we not already kind of go into characters with the casting?
I mean, we did a little bit, but we can go more in depth than what we did.
Yeah, that's fine.
Mm-hmm. Nate's like, I'll allow it.
Yeah, that's fine. Go ahead.
Okay, buddy. We definitely could have gone more in depth, and I want to go more in depth about a lot of these guys. But anyway, okay. So we're just gonna go on to plot here. So I'm kind of just gonna do it a little bit how Nate did for Fury, where we kind of just go like scene by scene, kind of, and just
Mhm.
I'll just briefly explain what the scene is about. I'm not gonna say everything that happens, but it's basically we start with Django and some of the other slaves kind of walking in the woods at night, and that's when we're introduced to Dr. Schultz, where he is able to buy Django. He actually kills two of the guys there that are leading the slaves, and he frees all the others, and that's a really cool opening scene, and it kind of just establishes Dr. Schultz's character at first as being very entertaining, and a lot of great acting, of course, during that scene.
Mm-hmm.
And then we kind of go on to so Django gets on one of the horses, and him and Dr. Schultz go into the town where it doesn't go so well for them at first, because they get into quite the situation where eventually they have a bunch of people in the town pointing guns at them. So Dr. Schultz has to explain his way out of the situation and stuff, which he has to do a couple times here in this film.
He used to
Mhm.
riz up the U.S. Marshal.
Yep. Oh yeah. Okay.
I
So
do.
yeah, because he killed the sheriff first, and then they called in the marshal, I think, right?
Yes, yeah. So he killed the sheriff who he had a bounty on, and then the marshal came in and like explained it to the marshal. Which great scene, by the way. They're just kind of like getting back into the Christoph Waltz performance, where he played that character so fantastically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then so after all that happens, they leave the town, and kind of like while they're resting on their travels, they kind of talk about Django's wife, Brumhilda. That's where it's kind of first brought up what Django's trying to do, and then they kind of make their plan to capture the Brittle brothers first, and then they go to the plantation there, and Django kind of goes off and is kind of shown around by one of the slaves, and Django finds one of the Brittle brothers, and that's and obviously he recognizes them, and that's from when we get a flashback, I think, where one of those guys was whipping his wife in a really intense and brutal scene that's hard to watch, and then we get a satisfying scene where Django attacks him and kind of gets his revenge, and eventually all three, I think they kill all three Bruno brothers. I think Django killed the first two, and then the Dr. Schultz killed the other one, I think, with a gun on the horse.
Yeah, that's the part where he's like, "I'm positive he did."
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's probably my favorite line of dialogue in the whole film.
It's a really good
it's
one.
well, so Jamie Foxx, like I know we said he had a kind of forgettable character, but it's just like that one standout thing for me where it's like it's like kind of like he doesn't really understand too much English just because he wasn't really taught. So like Dr. Schultz has to explain to him what positive means or what sure means.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I just think it's one of those like great like Tarantino isms again, where it's just that great dialogue where these characters, even though they're doing something so serious, are kind of like they're just bantering with each other.
Mhm.
And then we kind of get another part where it's like where like the people on the plantation, they come in there and have their guns pointed at them, and it's another part where Dr. Schultz has to explain himself out of the situation, talking about the bounty he had, and with the Brittle brothers. But I mean, the dudes on the plantation originally let them go, but after that, they aren't too happy, especially the owner of the plantation. So this is an interesting scene coming up. So so he plots to kill them, right? But he needs some help. So he calls his friends, the KKK.
His
Yep.
boys.
So he calls his boys, right? And again, these guys are not good people, but they are mocked in this scene in one of my favorite, maybe my favorite scenes of the film. So
Your
this
favorite
dude,
scene's the scene with the KKK? Nice.
no, my favorite scene is the one making fun of the KKK. Uh,
Mhm.
so it's like this one dude uh, had his wife, I think, make the masks or whatever, and they all complain about how small the holes are and how they can't see. And it just makes a mockery of that throughout an entire scene. And they tried to do a raid, but they're taken by surprise where they're shot at by Django and Dr. Schultz there, and that's just a hilarious scene. And also Jonah Hill's in it, by the way, which was interesting.
So
Best performance in the movie.
I will preface this by saying, so I saw this scene on TikTok probably about 3 months ago, and I completely forgot that this was in Django because I saw Jonah Hill, and I like if you would ask me, oh, is Jonah Hill in Django? I would have told you no.
bro, I saw this dude show up, and I was like, wait, why did they have Django as or they have Jonah Hill and Django and Change as a KKK member? What?
Wait, this isn't a sequel to Superbad?
No, it's a prequel, obviously.
This is what he did in middle school instead of high school.
But it is really funny though, because Jonah Hill at the time, I think it was coming right off of Superbad. It was right during I think the 21 Jump Street movies were coming out. Like I think it's 3 or 4 years after Superbad.
It was like 6 or 7. Superbad.
Yeah. Superbad is not. Yeah, so Django's.
I think it was 5.
Superbad's like.
This is
I
right.
think Superbad was 2009.
Superbad was 2000.
Oh, it was 2007.
Yeah.
So yeah, 5 years. Yeah, so
this
5
was
years
right before
after
This Is
after
the End.
Superbad. Oh yeah, so like he's kind of like a household name at this point, and he has like no lines of dialogue. He's kind of just there, just to be like, oh hey, Jonah Hill's in this movie.
No, and he's all like, "Oh, I'm confused. Are we wearing the masks or not?"
Yeah, I think that's the only line of dialogue he says in the whole movie.
Yeah, and the one plantation owner dude or whatever, he was like, "Oh, that just defeats the whole purpose. Why are we got to wear the mask for the raid?"
The one guy who's like, "Fuck you guys! I'm never having my wife help us with shit again."
That's the funniest part. Or not, and then there's a moment where during the raid, some dude running around was like, "I can't see shit in this thing."
Yeah, it's like all that matters the horses can see.
And then Django and Schultz, they kill a couple of them. I think a couple of them escape, but they go, they shoot some of them. So that whole thing happens, and that's absolutely hilarious scene. It shows kind of how this film can kind of. It is a little weird though how this film kind of blends some of the comedic scenes like that with a lot of really uncomfortable scenes where they show the brutality of slavery, and that can be a little jarring tonally, but overall I think they handled it fairly well, but it can still be a little bit well, we just went from a super comedic scene to now a slave getting like whipped and stuff. Like it's a little hard to adjust to.
There definitely is some kind of like whiplash moments. I think they're more towards the end of the film. I think the first hour of the film is almost perfect, to be completely honest.
Yeah, the first hour is all handled very well. I really like that. Just Django and Dr. Schultz going about all these missions and stuff. That's probably the best part of the movie. But everything else after is still really good too. That's just what I prefer. Like honestly, I could watch a whole movie of just Django and Dr. Schultz going on like bounty missions and stuff.
Possible spin-off for HBO Max. It's just Schultz and Django bounty missions. I'd watch the shit out of that though.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, I would too.
I mean, anything with Dr. Schultz I'd watch because that character is awesome.
Yeah,
he's
great
so
character.
Good.
Great performance again. Like I will probably be singing my praises to Christoph Waltz for the whole pod.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do you guys remember the scene? It's at the very end of the movie. When he's like in the house not the house, but like that little like outhouse shooting all the guys, and there's just a fucking naked dude that he shoots in the dick.
Dude, I was like, whoa, because that
I
is.
had to catch a rewind.
Dude, I rewinded. I was like, did I just see what I just saw right there? Like, damn.
Yeah, I think that's one of those instances of like kind of like a little jarring of the humor when it's like that's a pretty serious scene.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of black humor in this, where it's like going back to that KKK scene, like that's dark humor that was done very well, I think. But there's a lot of other moments like that.
I think what works so well with that scene is that like it never was supposed to be like they never showed it as a serious like group like.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas like in that scene at the end, like these plantation guys are pretty formidable people, and it's just kind of like played off for laughs at the end, which is kind of a little jarring to me.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I think that can kind of take away from the intensity of the climax there, for sure. And that's again back to tonal whiplash, which is one of the few actual issues I have with this. But it doesn't
Mhm.
bother me too much. But that's the one thing that I complain about that I actually kind of care about. There's a couple other nitpicks I could mention here, but that's
Mhm.
really the only thing that kind of bothers me and keeps it from being a little bit of a higher score and being really up there at that tier 1 5-star film.
Mhm.
So okay, so where were we at? So uh, after that whole KKK thing or whatever, they make fun of them. Then Schultz and Django, after that original mission they were on, decide to go on some more, and they kind of there's a montage and there's a lot of nice shots of them traveling about and going through some bounties. There's one where Django really struggles as an internal conflict where he has to kill uh, one of their targets with when he's like right by his son, and he really struggles with that. But Schultz has to talk about how he has to get dirty in this business, and I thought that was a really powerful scene. And then another montage scene comes up with Django and Schultz going on some more missions and shooting some more people and doing bounty hunter stuff. And then after they get through some of that stuff, then they kind of make their plan to free Broomhilda, Django's wife, and
Mhm.
then they go to the plantation, and that's when we're introduced to Calvin Candy. And this was one of the hardest scenes for me to watch coming up, where he has his two fighters going at it, and they literally have to fight to the death. And Tarantino doesn't shy away from the
Mhm.
violence, and
Mhm.
and again, that's kind of an example where it's like a couple of scenes ago we had that whole like a scene that I was like bursting out laughing with the KKK one, and then we go into this thing. So that's kind of another example of tonal whiplash there.
I mean, even
Mhm.
like even closer together is the scene where like they're like getting coffee at the police guy's house,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
and they're like,
Oh
"Oh, who do
yeah.
you got today?"
Yeah.
Like just like play for laughs, and then like probably not even 20 minutes later, they're watching two slaves fight each other to the death.
Yeah. It's crazy, but it is a good thing that I feel like that Tarantino doesn't shy away from the violence of slavery, though, because like a lot of
Mhm.
times when we're taught about it, it's sugar coated, but it really shouldn't be. Uh, and Tarantino definitely doesn't sugarcoat it in this film. And then they kind of just discuss business, like their whole plan is to kind of act like they're buying one of the fighters and make a massive offer, but they're actually uh,
Mhm.
getting Broomhilda. And there's a lot of great dialogue during the scene, a lot of great back and forth between Calvin Candy and Schultz and Django there, and then they make an offer that Candy can't refuse really because they offer him I think it was what $12,000, which 1800s that is it's a lot of money. Hold on, I should look up how much money
Hold
is
on,
that in today's money.
you keep talking. I'll do the calculation for you.
Okay, because yeah, that's a good amount of money, and originally I think they were trying to like buy his like best fighter, but then it's not even like the best
Mhm.
fighter. It's like his third best or something. I think they said.
They got Eskimo Joe.
Yeah, Eskimo Joe.
Eskimo Joe.
Uh, so Calvin Candy thinks he's ripping off these dudes then, but then they kind of just start making their travels to the actual Candyland plantation, I think, or whatever, where Broomhilda is, and kind of travel there. And Django catches the attention of Calvin Candy, where he's staying in character throughout this. And a really powerful moment is another brutal scene where one of the escaped slaves literally gets ripped apart by dogs, which is another
Mhm.
scene extremely hard to watch. And Django is the kind of like Candy kind of asks him like, "Oh, so you don't mind if I do whatever I want with him?" And Django has to stay in character and say yes throughout that. And but obviously, not okay with that. But eventually he does get his revenge for that. Although I mean he doesn't kill Candy though. Dr. Schultz does, but
That is
still.
true. So I did just look it up, and $12,000 from 1858 is worth $459,768.29.
So he
That
made a offer he
that's
couldn't refuse.
that's $500,000 if Quentin Tarantino's doing the math.
Yeah, it's about 500K. 1858. That's about 2 years before Civil War.
No, the scene before that I wanted to bring up is where it's like right before the dogs tear that dude apart when Tarantino just yanks, or not Tarantino, sorry. When Django just rips that dude off the horse.
Oh yeah, so,
And just throws
bro
him on the ground.
he's just asserting his dominance.
Yes,
I mean,
that was a good scene. I mean, again, it's kind of just like that, like little bits of humor sprinkled in throughout.
yeah. And okay, so where were we at? So ordering the dogs, kill him. So then they finally arrive at the plantation. We're introduced to Samuel L. Jackson's character Stephen, who is Uncle Ruckus, pretty much. And and he's kind of just taken aback when he saw Django first on the horse, and says a lot of words I can't say on this podcast and should never say. And
Why not?
We're not gonna. I don't think we're gonna go there.
yeah,
We're not gonna get into that.
Okay, and then so Dr. Schultz kind of creates a little plan to see Broomhilda, and it kind of shows the again the horrors of slavery, where it's like the exploitation, where for guests they essentially just prostitute a slave to do this, and that's another one of the things back in that time that's horrific. And also another scene showing the horrors of slavery is just that Broomhilda, kind of mentioned this before, where she ran off the plantation. They eventually got her back, and she had to spend that time in that hot box or whatever you call it. And it's just another brutal moment. And we can see this is another nice moment with Django where like he has to stay silent during this, but obviously he's pretty pissed off with what he is seeing there, and he almost like grabs his gun and is ready to do something, but he knows that would sabotage the plan. So he has to kind of hold himself back. I think it's just a powerful moment. And then
So sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, but
you're good.
The whole like where he grabs his gun that happens quite a bit throughout the movie.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I think that's just one of those like neat little like details that kind of like it's put in our face that even though like he's doing his best to stay in character, like he knows like if anything is like if they're gonna do anything, like Django's gonna whip out that gun and start shooting.
Yeah, and I feel like it really helps because Django doesn't have that many lines, like we kind of said. So it still adds a lot to his character with just moments like that where he's silent, but we got to see how he's still reacting to these things. And that's something that I think Jamie Foxx played very well, where in these scenes he's silent, but we can still tell the inner conflict he has. And so then after Broomhilda was in the hot box thing or whatever, they kind of get her ready to show to Dr. Schultz, and they get a room together. But obviously, Dr. Schultz isn't planning or isn't doing what the people on the plantation thought he was going to do, and he introduces him to Django, and Broomhilda kind of faints there, and that was kind of a fun moment. And then this is where we get into like that very long dinner scene, but it's still an amazing scene. And kind of throughout it, they're talking business and kind of exchanging a lot of dialogue and stuff. And eventually we get to where we slowly build up, where Stephen, Samuel L. Jackson's character, kind of starts to put the pieces together, where he realizes Broomhilda is kind of acting a little differently around Django, and puts the piece together that they know each other, and kind of confronts Broomhilda about it. And eventually, even though she's lying, he knows that they know each other, and figures out their whole scheme and tells Candy about it. And that's where we get to the great moment where Candy slams his fist on the table, cuts it, but DiCaprio still went through it with the performance and the line. and kept on with it. And that's where Schultz and Django get held at gunpoint, and this is just a very intense scene. But of course, whenever Doctor Schultz has a gun pointed at his head, he still finds a way out of it, and he kind of does here, where they agree to just use the money to buy Broomhilda straight up there, and but that's where we kind of get to an interesting moment where where things kind of all fall apart, where Candy and Schultz eventually, like after they come to this agreement, Schultz isn't too happy about it still, and especially he's not too happy about it when Candy insists on shaking Schultz's hand, but Schultz had a different idea, and he shoots him. So that's something that Schultz definitely had, building up that resentment for Candy for a long time, and wanted to do that the entire film, and that's just the last thing that set him off, and just like, nah, I'm not doing that.
I will
He's
say
like, nah, fuck this dude.
sorry. I will
No,
say that I enjoy every time that like he like extends his hand and he's got that like contraption in his sleeve that like shoots the gun out.
Yeah,
that is so cool.
Just a neat little like Tarantino mind thing that I really enjoyed in the movie.
mm-hmm. And that's where this so we kind of mentioned this before, but Steven is completely distraught at his guy Calvin Candy being killed, and that's where
that's an
this whole
understatement.
yeah, that's an understatement. And this is where a very cool shootout happens. A lot of violence, though. It's Tarantino. He loves his blood, and it's like
that was one of the few notes that I took, was like the amount of blood was just mind boggling.
It's a comically large amount of blood. It's also kind of like that in Kill Bill too. There is a lot of blood in Kill Bill, and I've watched that within the past week. So that's kind of something else that it reminded me of. And but Django is working his way through this whole shootout. It's violent, but eventually Django kind of runs out of ammo. He's cornered and has to surrender, and that's where we get to the moment where he's going to be sent off. I don't know. It was like some like work camp thing or whatever. I don't really know what
It was a
like that.
It was a mine. Like it was they were.
A
I don't
mine.
remember what they were mining for, but I do remember it was like whatever the name of the brothers were mining company.
Yeah, something like that. So it then he has to. So he's being so okay. So some crazy was they get like a hot knife and they're about to they say snip him, which is insane. But it's crazy how the dude I think, what was it? Okay, so Steven came in. I was just like, "Oh yeah, we're not gonna do that." And the dude that was about it was like, "Oh yeah, thanks for telling me in time, bro." Like, it's crazy the timing of that, and it also just kind of shows like how like that's something that actually happened back then. Another scene just showing the brutality of slavery. But it's also like again, you get that humor fused into it, which is still kind of like tonally confusing. It's like, wait a second, is this like a brutal scene, or am I supposed to laugh here, or what? It's something that's a little confusing sometimes in this.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's again. I don't think there's much more we can say about it, but it's just like that tonal whiplash that I think it's present in a lot of Tarantino films. To be completely
Yeah,
fair, so it might just be his directing style.
I mean, yeah, but also I get it with some of the other ones because like it's not like a taking place in like a time period as brutal as this with stuff as brutal as
Like,
slavery.
yeah, it's such sensitive topics.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, Inglorious Bastards does have to deal with the Holocaust, so that's a little.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is fair.
There's
That is
that.
fair.
There's that too. That is indeed fair. So I guess Tarantino, as he went on, started to go into that. But I was kind of just thinking about like his earlier stuff, like Pulp Fiction, Reservoir Dogs, Kill Bill, stuff like that.
Yeah. I
So
think.
then, oh, sorry.
Sorry. The biggest thing for me about the shootout, how jarring it was, it's just how fucking inaccurate everybody was.
Except for Django.
It's like stormtroopers in Star Wars.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
shot like a dead body like 40 times.
Yeah, Django's plot armor is insane.
Yeah, that's also something I kind of want to bring up. That Django is all of a sudden just like super skilled shooting and all that, and it's just like an action hero now all of a sudden.
Well, hey, they showed that one scene where he shot a snowman, and that's all the training he needed.
Yeah. I guess
there was that scene too where like during the KKK scene where he was like leading the guy on the horse, and like Dr. Schultz like had like kind of like a throwaway line where he's like, "Oh, the kid's a natural."
Yeah, but it's not. I mean, I don't really care about it, to be honest, but it's still something interesting. And I mean, I guess Schultz definitely did train him more, but still, in a scene as intense as that, it was kind of just like, oh, the plot armor is a little bit mushy, but it's still an entertaining scene. I mean, every movie kind of has plot armor to an extent when it's like an action. So,
Yeah, especially like a scene like this where it has shootouts like that.
Like John Wick. John Wick has the greatest plot armor of all time, where he gets shot like 10 times in a movie. I love those movies, but dude gets shot so many times. And yeah, I mean, maybe we'll do a John Wick episode in the future. I really like those movies, but
That'd be fun.
We'd have to do all of them.
Yeah, all 4 of them. Aren't they making another one? Apparently,
they are, but it's a spin-off from what I heard.
Okay, because I was gonna say like
John Wick 5 too later on. I heard.
Yeah, he rises from the grave. So somehow John Wick returned.
Somehow John Wick returned. in a podcast episode filled with talking about great dialogue, of course we have to talk about somehow Palpatine returned.
Palpatine returned.
Oh my god! Please,
Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker for a bad movie of the month one day.
Please tell me we're never gonna watch those movies again.
But too bad we're doing Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania this month for a bad movie of the month.
Yep, stay tuned for Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania.
So, okay, where were we? So we were okay. So Django is going to be taken to this mine or whatever it is, and this is where we get the Australian or whatever it is Tarantino in this cameo, and Django is able to kind of learns from Dr. Schultz, where he's able to get himself out of this situation where it seems like he's completely cornered, and he's able to convince these guys to kind of let him out of his chains or whatever, and eventually he just ends up killing them and going back to Candyland, and he also frees some of the guys there.
I forgot he did that. I thought he just kind of let them go on their way, and the moment he started shooting them, I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah, because when I was writing down my notes, I was like kind of just like skimming through the movie a little bit, and then I just assumed he let those guys go too, and then I just saw him kill them. I was like, oh, but I don't think he needed to do that.
I mean, they were gonna let him go. They were definitely gonna let him go.
Yeah. Why do you need to do that? I mean, I guess he just likes killing white people. I mean, hey, he did say kill white folk and get paid for it. Sounds like a good job. Or that might not be the exact line. I might have misquoted it, but still,
I think that's probably what he said.
Yeah.
He's doing it for the love of the game.
He's doing it for the love of the game.
That's a wild statement. That's crazy work right there.
Yeah, Ryan always with the wild statements on this podcast. So then Django is kind of on going back to Candyland on his horse, and I really cool with him riding out on it with holding the gun and all that. And then and we kind of already mentioned this, where he goes to the outhouse in that wild moment with the dude that was naked, and he kind of kills those people there, and then eventually he makes his way to that one actual house, kills everybody there, kills Steven in a pretty brutal way, and then he and a really cool moment was one of the dudes that was about to die. He was like cursing him out and saying and like they called him Django, and then Django was just like, yeah, the D is silent, and then he kills him.
That's what I thought Nate was going to do this whole episode.
Yeah, exactly. And then then
actually it's a Django.
Django.
Django. So then the Django goes and blows up the house, and then so yeah, he saved his wife obviously, and so I guess they live happily ever after somehow. The end. So I guess any other thoughts
I
on
will.
that?
So I will say so in between the from the start of the first shootout at the candy plantation to the end of the movie, I think it's probably about an hour, maybe an hour 10 of like film time. And I will say like
It's like
the
it's like
pacing for
30
that is
minutes.
there's no way it's only 30 minutes because like
No, it is only 30 minutes. Hold on,
Yeah,
really.
because
I
or
watched it like
it's
2
like
hours
30 or
ago.
40. Yeah,
Yeah, it's
All right. Well,
40 at most.
either way, the pacing for the in between like that moment and the end of the film, I think is fantastic. Just because it doesn't like it feels like it's maybe 20 minutes. Like it feels like a short amount of time. At least for me, it did.
yeah. I think
Mhm.
that was one of the parts of the pacing. Like some moments of the pacing, I didn't like the greatest. There were some moments I thought were a little bit slow, and that's why I say this movie could have been a bit shorter. But overall, it didn't really bother me too
Mhm.
much.
I think this movie could have been 2.5 hours, and it would have been good.
Yeah, just like a little bit more cut down would have helped out in some
Mhm.
scenes.
Yeah, it's
Again,
not
that's
like you
kind of
need
just
to take. Sorry,
sorry. No, you go ahead.
it's not like you need to take a whole like chunk out of this movie. It's just like trim like 10, 15 minutes, and then I think you have like
Yeah,
perfect amount of time.
exactly. Because it
And
is still like a pretty big story that needs like a longer, over 2 hour, 20-minute movie or whatever, but not really
Mhm.
pushing 3 hours.
right. And I feel like that's kind of just the Tarantino way, where a lot of his scenes are kind of just scenes that are there just to like establish the world a little bit, and it's kind
Yeah,
of just like a bunch of banter. Like I know we talked about Pulp Fiction a lot, but there's that scene in the diner with John Travolta and Sam Jackson, where
amazing scene.
yeah, great scene, but if it kind of doesn't really further the plot too much, it's
Yeah,
kind of just there for like
well,
a little bit of banter between the two characters.
yeah. I feel like though, I feel like that was done better in Pulp Fiction than it was in this film. Not gonna lie, but that's
I
just for
do agree
me.
with that. I do agree with that.
And that's why I felt myself like in some moments where things dragged on a little bit, kind of checking out, not really checking out, but like you get what I mean, like not really as engaged as in some other
Mhm.
moments. Whereas
Right.
with Pulp Fiction, I'm like fully engaged throughout that.
Mhm. I think this is the second longest Tarantino movie. I feel like Hateful Eight is longer.
Hateful Eight's a long movie.
Yeah,
And
I don't think
I
I've
think it's
watched that,
three
but I feel
hours.
like I've heard it's 3 hours.
I think so.
Let me look it up.
I'm looking it up right now.
It's
It
probably like
is.
250.
It's
Hateful
over
Eight
3 hours.
is yeah, Hateful Eight's over 3 hours.
Yeah, 3 hours and 8 minutes.
Mhm.
I think Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is pretty long too.
Yeah, that's like
It's like 240, so it's
yeah, something like
about as
that.
long as this one.
So yeah, Tarantino likes his longer movies. Um, I liked it with
So
with Reservoir Dogs, where that's only like an hour and a half.
all right, so
I think that's his shortest.
Django is 5 minutes longer than Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Mhm. I think Reservoir Dogs is definitely his shortest.
Yeah,
It has to be.
because after
Yeah,
that, I feel like he got like the green light to actually make longer films. Because Reservoir Dogs, I think, was pretty low budget.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of his early movies were pretty low budget. To be fair,
Well, I mean,
No, Pulp
no,
Fiction
Pulp
has really
Fiction's
good.
not. Yeah, but Reservoir Dogs, I feel like that just kind of hit right away, and that's why he was able to make Pulp
Mhm.
Fiction after that.
that's fair. I feel like he got more trust because Reservoir Dogs is a great movie, and he kind of got like he had a hit like as his first movie, so studios were like, all right, we can trust this guy.
Yeah,
Pulp
I,
Fiction's either his second or third movie. I don't remember when Jackie Brown came out, but I haven't
I
seen that
think
movie either. So
I think I think Jackie Brown's after Pulp
Pulp
Fiction, I
Fiction.
think, or maybe
I've
it's
never
after
seen
Kill
Jackie
Bill.
Brown though.
No, maybe not.
It is
Hold on.
after
No.
Pulp Fiction's 94, Jackie Brown's 97.
Yeah, okay. And then he did like Kill Bill and stuff after that, maybe.
Yeah, in the early
I
2000s, late 90s.
I've never seen Jackie Brown. Have any of you seen it?
I'm
No.
not.
Yeah, I feel
Might
like
have to.
that's one that's kind of overlooked in his catalog.
If I'm being completely honest, I forgot it existed until you guys just brought it up.
It doesn't have a bad cast though.
Does it not? Maybe we'll do an episode on that one pretty soon.
Yeah, it has Samuel L. Jackson, Michael Keaton, Robert De Niro, Chris Tucker.
Another one Sam Jackson's in?
Samuel L. Jackson loves his
Yeah.
Tarantino movies.
Dude is in like every single Tarantino movie besides Kill Bill, I guess.
I think he's in every Tarantino movie except Kill Bill and Reservoir Dogs.
Oh yeah, obviously not Reservoir Dogs. Because he's in Pulp Fiction. Wait, is he in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood?
I don't know. I haven't seen it.
No.
Yeah, that's why I'm asking. I haven't seen it
remember.
either.
Is he in Inglourious Bastards?
No,
No.
he's not in Inglourious Bastards.
So he's in Django, Pulp Fiction, Hateful Eight.
I mean, I think it's a pretty safe bet to say Sam Jackson's going to be in a Tarantino movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
And other than like the main three characters, I mean Dakota Fanning's in it too. There's not. Oh, Austin Butler's in this too. I'm gonna have to watch this pretty soon. It's got a pretty good cast.
Yeah.
Kurt Russell's in it.
Al Pacino.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll Sydney Sweeney's in it too. Wow, what a cast!
Dude,
maybe we'll do an episode on that in maybe we'll do an episode on that in the near future.
Mm-hmm.
I'll make it my pick for September.
Okay. So,
anyway,
little bit off track there.
Back on the actual movie we're talking about.
I think so. I think I was gonna do a thing on characters, but I think Nate is right. We could definitely because we got into that more in the with the acting. We kind of did both in that. So I don't think we really need to go over that much unless anybody else wants to add anything to just like the writing of the characters and all that.
No, I think we got most of it out there when we talked about the plot as well.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah.
All right. We can go on to let's go cinematography now. So again, Nate, cinematography, angles, and lighting.
Yeah.
What did Nate think cinematography was last time?
I thought it was visuals.
Yeah, bro just thought it was like what was on the screen. Oh, here's an explosion.
He's like, I love the cinematography of this explosion.
I'm gonna get clowned on that forever, aren't I?
Man, I love this. I love this explosion. Really good cinematography here.
I'm gonna get clowned on that forever, aren't I?
I loved when Michael Pena did that cinematography.
I liked when Michael Pena jumped on a grenade.
Yo, I really love when this podcast is gonna blow up like Michael Pena.
All right.
A way to bring him up every episode.
I think that's gonna be our thing. We're gonna find a way to bring Michael Pena.
Yeah. By the way, he's in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, which is going to be our bad movie of the month.
I think we should do that for next month, honestly, so we can watch the other two Ant-Mans.
Oh yeah, great movies. Actually, you know what? The first one is not bad. First one's actually kind of funny. All right. The second and third ones are trash, though. Once we got the Wasp in there, no.
The second one's not horrible.
It's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. It's pretty bad.
It's got John Krasinski in it.
Yeah.
What? Oh yeah, it does.
Wait, I don't even remember that.
Yeah, John Krasinski. He plays Jimmy Woo.
Have you not seen the Asian Jim episode of The Office?
I was waiting for you to get it, Noah.
Yeah, I was like, wait a second. Yeah. Okay.
All right, but let's hear what Noah has to say about the cinematography.
Yeah. So I thought the explosions were really good.
All right.
I thought it was awesome cinematography when the house blew up at the end.
I thought.
All right.
When the house was covered in blood, I thought that was really good cinematography. Okay. Anyway, so I thought there was a lot of great shots. throughout this film. I really like the lighting, especially in like the dinner scene when we're in the house and like on like the Candyland plantation or whatever. I think the lighting there
Mhm.
is really good. And throughout there's a lot of nice shots and like some of the in the montage sequences where it's like during the winter and we kind of see them like on their horses and you see like the mountains in the background. I thought that's a really cool shot too.
Mhm.
And like towards the end, obviously the one where Django's looking at the house and he blows it up and looks back at his wife and smiles. I thought that was a great shot and a great moment to end the film. And there's a lot of great angle choices that can add tension to these scenes. Like there are moments like when Django and Candy are first kind of confronting each other and going back and forth, and Django kind of challenges them a bit, and we get like really tight angles on their faces there to kind of show like the isolation between the two right there, and it kind of just makes you feel that tension between the two at that moment. And I mean, overall, just really good cinematography, a lot of great lighting, great angles and stuff. Uh, I mean, I don't think it's the greatest ever. There's not a lot of stuff I remember outside of that, but overall, it was still pretty solid.
Mhm. There's
Mhm.
one shot that I think is really cool. It's when they're in the bar, towards the beginning of the movie, and Doc King Schultz is fucking with the I don't remember if it was a bar spoon or if it was a knife, but he's just cutting the foam off the beer, and the
Oh
camera
yeah,
like kind of it like flips and goes up, and you see him do it, and I thought that was a really cool camera shot.
yeah. There's a lot of cool camera movements. I mean, we kind of mentioned with like the zooming in a lot of
Mhm.
these moments, like in the scene where uh, DiCaprio's character had the dogs go and brutally eat that slave and just absolutely
Mhm.
brutal scene. And there's also I think they also do it when Sam Jackson's character they zoom in on him when he cries out after DiCaprio's
Mhm.
character dies.
Mhm.
So that's another like little quirk of Tarantino here that he uses with that.
Mhm. I really enjoyed in that first shootout, like right when Steven has Boomhilda kind of like at gunpoint, and like he's like yelling to Django, and like the camera's like kind of like going back and forth between the two, where it's like,
Yeah,
but like you can tell like it's one fluid motion.
yeah,
Mhm. Yeah,
And
yeah.
then I also really enjoyed how kind of like staying with the time, like the time period where any almost every time they were indoors, like even though there was probably like studio and stage lights, like the scene looked like it was lit up by candles, which is like what it would
Mhm.
be like in the 1860s. So I really just enjoyed the authenticity of like the lighting between the shots.
Mhm. I
yeah.
think you mean 1859, not 1860s.
All
This
right,
is
Quentin
too.
Tarantino,
This
calm
is
down.
Actually, it was 1858, 3 years before the Civil War.
No, and then there's also the scene when they're with the Brittle brothers and Dr. Schultz kills the one that's on the horse, and like the shot comes off, and like the camera like pans and zooms in on the cotton field and like the blood splattering the cotton field.
Oh yeah, that
that's
was a good
such a
shot.
cool shot.
Yeah, and then of course any of the scenes like there's a lot of shooting, and so any of the scenes where like there's blood splattering everywhere, just I think that just looked really cool. It's just kind of like showing like this is what a gunshot looks like.
Mhm.
Yeah,
All right.
that's about it that I have for that. Just a lot of
Yeah.
the lighting choices with some of the indoor scenes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And okay, so is that all we got for that?
Yep.
I
I
that's
believe
all I
so.
got.
Okay. Let's go on to music. This is the last, like, actually, no, second last topic. I lied. Um, obviously, not counting the final overall thoughts and score. So, with the music, I thought, so there's some moments where I didn't really like, but most of it I really liked. A lot of nice music choices with kind of those old Western type of vibes. I especially like the opening Django theme that plays during the opening credits. And I thought that was a really cool choice with music and a lot of other nice choices. But something that was kind of interesting was the use of I think they put a Rick Ross song in this, which is interesting. And so, you know, there I won't lie, there are some Rick Ross songs I like, but just
Mhm.
because I like the song doesn't mean it needs to be in the movie. Because
Mhm.
I mean, rap is the genre I listen to most, and the infusion of that into this is kind of weird because this is obviously taking place like 150 years ago or something like that, 2 years before the Civil War. And and yeah, so I feel like that was kind of weird, especially in this one of those shootouts I think they used it in. And it didn't really take me out per se, but it was just something that felt a little bit out of place. But the other music choices I thought were fantastic, though.
So I actually disagree with your take on the Rick Ross and the Tupac song. So I actually enjoyed it because I feel like it kind of made it less hip hop, made it a little bit more like old Western style. Like it wasn't just the song just put over the movie, like a lot of
But yeah,
other
yeah,
soundtracks are.
Mhm.
And I thought there was like a cool little mesh of like, yes, this is still an old Western style, like spaghetti Western, but they're kind of modernizing it a little bit, which I just thought that was a really interesting music choice. So I actually really enjoyed it.
I'm the inverse of both of you two. I don't like this soundtrack at all. Not at all. Not at all.
not anything.
No, there's some stuff I like. They have the Jim Croce song. I Got a Name. I like that song. I like the John Legend
Oh, that was a good one.
song at the end, and I love Freedom by Richie Havens. Um, I love all three of those songs, but just like playing a rapper is one thing, but out of all the rappers in the whole world, you decide to play a Rick Ross song.
Hey, Rick Ross has made some decent songs. Okay, we're not gonna say he's completely terrible. He's not good anymore, but
I guess, but this was also right before, or this was right
hey,
after.
this is 2012. Rick Ross was big back then, so you gotta keep that
Yeah,
in mind too.
but this is right after, I believe it was same year. Rick Ross said the infamous "put Molly all in her champagne,
Oh,
she ain't even know it" bar.
all right, you bring up a good point here.
Like I know Tarantino's into some weird shit, but with that,
I will say I was a little shocked there wasn't any close-ups of feet in this movie.
Yeah, very shocking. Very shocking. Is it really a
there-
Tarantino movie if he doesn't have a close up of feet? Like so I recently watched Kill Bill, right? So there's the one scene where Kill Bill where the bride is trying to like move her feet or whatever, where they're like kind of just numb after waking up out of the coma. And Tarantino really loved that scene because he got to have so many shots of feet there.
I do remember that. There in
Yeah.
there's a lot of feet in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Yeah, it's not
I
shocking.
haven't seen it, but yeah, there definitely is. Well,
There's
okay,
also a scene.
I feel
I
like
don't.
I've seen a scene from that where it's like Brad Pitt with like some other girl there, and she like puts her feet up on the window or something.
Yep, that is from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Her
Yeah,
foot's like pressing against the glass.
yeah,
Oh my lord. There's
yeah,
another
like
Tarantino scene. Granted, I don't. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not entirely sure if this is a Tarantino movie, but it's like a kind of like a strip club, and like the dancers like feeling up some guy in the front row, and like he puts his foot in her mouth and all that. It's
what?
disgusting, disgusting scene.
No, that's literally Tarantino in that scene.
Oh, you're right. That is. It
Wait,
is
what movie?
Tarantino.
What movie
I
is it
can't.
from?
I can't
It's
remember. I've only seen the clip.
it's from Dusk Till Dawn. It's not a Tarantino movie, but it's a movie that he's in.
So it's a Tarantino movie then. Because you
No, he's
absolutely
in,
know that he said to the director like this scene is happening.
Yeah,
or maybe that's what woke him up to it.
he was real excited about that scene when he saw that in the script. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Any wait, I'm sorry. Were you gonna say something?
No, I'm just laughing.
Okay. Okay. Uh, so I think any other closing thoughts on music or every centerpiece?
No, I do think it's kind of
Uh,
interesting how all three of us are on like different sides.
Yeah.
mhm.
I mean, yeah, because like you really like it. I'm a little more neutral. I mean, I still like it, but I guess I'm like more of the middle of the pack on it. And then Ryan really doesn't like it.
Yeah, I don't want to make it seem like it's the worst movie soundtrack of all time because it's not, but it's a good one. I wouldn't put it up there with like the greatest soundtrack of all time, that being Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. But
Can't wait to watch it at the end of the month.
no, but yeah, I wouldn't put it up there with like the greatest soundtracks of all time, but it's a good one.
That's that's fair. That's fair. I mean, I'm also not going to throw it up there with like the greatest of all time,
Yeah.
but for being what it is, and like, yeah, it's a little weird and modernized, but I, like, as a music
Mhm.
nerd, I really personally enjoyed the modernized take on the spaghetti western themes.
I
I mean,
think the biggest thing. Sorry.
no, you can go on.
Okay. I think the biggest thing with it for me is this is I'm gonna shout out Stranger Things for doing this, even though it's a TV show, not a movie. All the songs that you hear in Stranger Things came out before like the season that's taking place happened, you
I
know?
was I
So
was there just going to make the same type of point with that.
it always kind of bothers me in movies when songs that came out like 40 years after the character is doing something
Yeah.
happens, you
That's
know?
fair. That's fair,
And
and like
yeah,
that's your own personal like take on it, and I definitely do enjoy when that happens because I absolutely love all the music that's in Stranger Things.
a movie that kind of has that this whole thing kind of reminded me of was in The Great Gatsby, where they use like a bunch of Jay-Z music during it when it's set in like the early 1900s.
I forgot about
Or
that.
so there is one instance of this where I don't like it, and that was in the recent Elvis movie with Austin Butler because they used like Doja Cat and a bunch of
Oh
like
yeah.
they did like the remix for like I
Hound
can't remember the
Dog.
name of the Elvis song, but they're yeah, Hound Dog with was it Toxic by Britney Spears?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, it's like
trash.
I didn't like that instance of it just because I thought like it's different. I feel like it's a little different. Like I think you have to look at the movie, like what the type of movie is, because like in a movie like Elvis, like it's a biopic about Elvis. You should be using Elvis songs.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like putting Hi My Name Is in the new Bob Dylan biopic.
No, it's actually a great comparison. Or it's like if like Bohemian Rhapsody came out and half the music wasn't by Queen.
Nah, they just put the Rick Ross song in there. Put Molly in her champagne song. But yeah, I think that's a great point from Ryan though with Stranger Things, like using music of the time. I really like when that's done, and I do get that it kind of does fit more with this movie. But I would have, I mean, I still would have preferred songs that more go into that kind of Western thing, which was a lot of it was like that. But I feel like the inclusion of some of the hip hop elements wasn't really what I wanted in there.
That's fair. That's a totally valid criticism.
Okay, so anything else we got here?
For music, I don't think so. No.
No, I've pretty much given up and trying to convince you guys.
Okay, so now I think I'm gonna go. So just ask like quickly go over like favorite scenes of the movie. Yeah, you can list off like maybe a couple if you want, but I think whichever one of you wants to start with that.
I think you should kick it off here, Noah.
Okay. So my favorite scene, I don't think it's the best scene of the film, but it's definitely the one I enjoyed the most. So we kind of talked about it. Was that KKK mask scene? Just absolutely hilarious. Kind of black comedy right there, where it's poking fun at just how ridiculous it is with the masks and like how small the holes are, and everybody's complaining about it and stuff. How they can't see, and I
Jonah
really
Hill
like
is there.
how Jonah Hill is indeed there, and I just really like how it mocks these people in the past. They definitely deserve to be mocked like that.
Mhm.
And I mean, we already kind of went over that a lot, so I mean, I won't rehash everything there. So I'll give it to give the rest of this to you.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely like. I have two that I kind of want to talk about. One of them is that KKK scene. It reminds me a lot of the scene in Black Klansman when Topher Grace is like on the phone, like trying to explain, oh, this is what a white person sounds like when you're talking to them on the phone. It's kind of just like that making fun of like none of this is rooted in science at all, or none of this has any sort of validity, but it's just such a funny scene. And of course, I'm also gonna have to go with the dinner scene just because such a great scene. Leonardo DiCaprio's performance was great. Christoph Waltz's performance was great. And we've already kind of talked about that quite a bit, so there's not much more I can say on it.
My favorite scene in the whole movie is actually the scene where they're at the bar and the two guys are fighting.
Mhm.
That scene, or the scene where they're all, it's a little bit before the dog scene. It's when they're all like getting ready to go. And it's where Django pulls the dude off the horse and then asks he asks Walt Goggins if he wants to hold hands with him. They're getting, they're getting a little bit flirty.
Who's gonna carry the horses?
Who's gonna carry the horses? Walt David Goggins.
Well
They're
done.
related, right? Yeah.
Yeah, well, Walter Goggins and David Goggins, long lost brothers.
Is it Walter? I thought it was Walton. I could be so wrong.
It is Walton. You're right.
Nate messing up yet another name.
Oh my
Oh,
god.
Noah went Walter, and it kind of threw me off a little bit. I did just look it up though,
Walter
because
White?
I was really hoping his middle name would be David, because I think that'd be really funny.
Oh, guys, guess what he's in?
And then the Lost Quantumania.
No, he's in Ant-Man and the Wasp.
I think he's in there too. Like he shows up as like a brief cameo role.
Maybe. I don't even remember his character.
I think that tells you everything you need to know about his character.
I do.
What about
Looking at him, I
about
remember.
Michael? What about Michael Pena's character in in Fury? Do we remember him?
I remember when he jumped on a grenade at the end.
I remember when he blew up just like this podcast. Well,
I will say
Dude,
though,
I
like
remember.
Michael Pena and Ant-Man, fantastic character.
oh yeah,
Yeah, too bad he's not in the one we're gonna watch.
the the one good part of Ant-Man and the Wasp is when Michael Pena gets truth serum. That's like the one part I remember.
That is a really good scene actually.
That's like the one good scene from that movie. Too bad we're not watching it, and we're watching Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania.
Yeah, stay tuned for Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania at the end of the month.
Can we just watch the Velocipaster instead?
That's my favorite movie of all time, bro.
No, apparently it's got a 65% on Rotten Tomatoes. Apparently, it's a really good movie.
Apparently, it's like a 3 on Letterboxd.
Did you guys see the Borderlands movie got a 4%?
That checks out. I will say I'm the biggest hater of any movie Kevin Hart is in, except for the one that he did with Bryan Cranston, where Bryan Cranston played a paraplegic.
I don't
That's a
hate.
great movie.
Oh, you mean season 6 of Breaking Bad?
I'm gonna look up what that movie's called real quick, just so I can put you guys on.
I like the first Jumanji.
I mean,
What?
so when you say the first Jumanji, do you mean the actual first Jumanji with Robin Williams?
Yeah, because we're talking about Kevin Hart movies, and he was in that one.
Well, you said the first Jumanji, and that's the first Jumanji.
Well, actually, you said the first Jumanji.
Well,
Well, actually, Django Unchained was 3 years before the Civil War, not 2.
the movie I'm talking about, by the way, is called The Upside. Great movie. You should watch it.
I've seen it. It's pretty good.
It's terrible.
It's called.
I've never seen it.
It's called the Up Dog.
What's up, dog?
Not much, dog. What's up with you?
So stupid. Okay, we're getting quite sidetracked right now. All right. Any other scenes we want to talk about for our favorites?
No, I don't think so.
No.
I think every scene in this movie is great, honestly.
No,
I don't know if we made it.
I really hate the scene with Rick Ross music. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. The scene's good. It's just the music's kind of bad. Anyway, so I think that's all we got then.
Yeah, we
Yeah, I
want to get
believe so.
into the overall grades now. No, do you want to kick us
Yep.
off there?
Yeah. So this movie, it's so love Tarantino stuff, and this is just another great entry into his catalog. I mean, great dialogue as always. His directing's great. Um, Characters are very entertaining, especially Christoph Waltz's character, Dr. Schultz. So entertaining, especially. I mean, again, how many times he has a gun pointed at him, but never dies from it, except for after he kills Calvin Candy. He finally gets shot when a gun is pointed at him. But outside of that, he's able to de-escalate those situations so well, and it's so entertaining. And the way he kind of takes Django under his wing, I thought was great to see throughout the entire film. I think Django as a character also is great, and I like how he changes throughout the film, and the ending with him rescuing his wife and blowing up the plantation. I thought that was an extremely satisfying ending and a satisfying end to his character arc. There's so many memorable moments and memorable lines throughout the film, and I mean, performances all amazing. It's a great cast as usual in Tarantino films. Thought a lot of the shootouts were great, and there's a lot of uncomfortable moments, but they're not shying away from the horrors of slavery, which I thought was a good thing, because I don't think that should be sugarcoated at all. And I mean, like we have said a couple times, I mean, the tone. There's some tonal whiplash and such with the comedy moments and the brutality of slavery, but at the end of the day, it doesn't affect my enjoyment too much here. And there's a couple other minor issues, like some of the stuff, the music I didn't like as much, or maybe the pacing wasn't the greatest at times. But overall, it's still a great film. And if I had to rate it out of 5, I'm gonna go 4.2 out of 5. But I lean towards 4.5 stars in Letterboxd. I think I put it as, but a tiny bit lower than that, I say.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat as you here. I mean, overall, fantastic film. The only real complaint I had is like that tonal whiplash that we talked about, where some of the comedy didn't hit right with me, just for like where it was in the film. Obviously, the casting and the direction was great. Tarantino obviously is a great director. Christoph Waltz and Leonardo DiCaprio, fantastic performances. The two standouts for me. Sam Jackson, even though he was in a minor role, also played his character really well. Yeah, so for me, giving it a score out of 5, I gave it a 4 out of 5. Which for those of you that listened last week, you'll notice that that's lower than what I gave Fury, and that's just because I enjoy watching Fury a little bit more, just because of the memories I have associated with it. But this is still a great film. I think 4 out of 5 is a quite fair grade for it. Also, grading out of 5 is kind of a restrictive scale.
Yeah, we should probably start doing 10, honestly. Give us a little bit more.
I mean,
we'll talk about that next week.
You can't just like double the score, so it would just be an 8 out of 10 for Nate, and then like 8.4 for me. So it changed too much, I guess. But
Yeah,
if you want to rate
if I was rating it out of 10, I'd probably give it like an 8.5, 8.6.
Yeah.
So I guess we can't just do it out of 10. So I would say mine would be like, I'd just bump it up to 8.5, decent round number kind of. So Ryan, if you want to, you can just rate out of 10.
Yeah, so I kind of fucked myself last week by giving Fury a 4. Because I think this movie's infinitely better.
Yeah,
Okay, so
objectively,
what would you grade it out of 10 then? You can compare
objectively,
Fury in that.
objectively,
I think
Django is a
Fury
better
would be an
movie.
8. I think Fury would be an 8. So, if you give it an 8.5, I'll give it an 8.6, just so I can be a catty bitch.
Yeah.
No,
No universal agreement on here.
I will say that Django is objectively speaking a better film than Fury, but I just have good memories associated with the actual watching of Fury. That's why I have it graded so highly.
Wow! You have good memories of Michael Pena blowing up.
Yeah, it was my favorite. It was my favorite part, watching that useless ass character die.
Jeez. Name one
Nate
character
has
trait of
spawned.
Michael Pena's character.
Dying.
Exactly. Yeah, Nate
Horny,
really loves
horny.
watching people get killed in war. That's why he loves series so much.
Nate's a big fan of war.
Mm-hmm. He actually missed the message of the movie that said war is bad. He misinterpreted it to say war is good.
War is good.
What is it not good? I'm sorry, did I miss something here?
Never let
He
this
actually,
man become a political leader.
he actually he actually watched the movie in reverse, so he thinks that war brings all these people back to life.
Right, okay. So how do we transition from
just
that now?
yeah,
I don't
just
know how to
just no
transition from
comment.
that. No comment. Okay, so this film is
Yeah,
definitely better than Fury. Fury was the worst movie I've ever seen, Nate. Never suggest that again.
shut up.
Okay. Okay. All right. We all know the thoughts on Fury. If you haven't watched that episode yet, you should go watch that. It was a good episode.
Mhm.
Shout out to Michael Pena.
Shut
So
up, Michael.
And shout out David Ayer for directing such a good movie and then never directing anything good again.
just shout out for David Ayer from going from Fury to Suicide Squad.
And
And
then the
then never
bright.
then
Right.
to Bright. And then never doing anything else after that.
Yeah. So
Okay, anybody
okay.
got any closing thoughts here?
I don't think I said anything.
About the movie? Nah, not really. It's a cool
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah, good movie.
Tarantino loves the N-word.
Yeah, Tarantino loves that word.
Feet and the N-word. Those are his two things.
Yeah.
But
So
gun to your head, give me two character traits of Quentin Tarantino.
N-word and feet.
and lots of blood.
Yeah, blood.
Yeah, it's like a comically large amount of blood in this movie, and like Kill Bill also.
Yeah, I don't want to say that took me out of it, just because like I'm sitting there like there's no way a human bleeds that much,
Yeah,
right?
exactly, dude. Like in the shootouts, it's like the whole house is covered in blood. I'm like, that's not. I don't think that would happen in real life.
Actually, that's too much.
All right.
I'm actually Tarantino. Humans don't bleed that much.
All
And
right.
actually, Tarantino, this film takes place 3 years before the Civil War, not 2.
And actually, Tarantino, that's not Australian.
I'm actually Tarantino. You need to do that accent better.
All right. Everybody just about done with the movie though.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah.
All right.
I was actually lying this entire review. I think this movie sucks.
All right. Well,
Guys,
we appreciate you guys listening. Sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry. I was just gonna do some looking towards the future stuff before we leave.
Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania.
Yeah, stay tuned for that.
That'll be in a couple weeks.
Next week we are going to be doing. Should I announce the movie for next week?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay. Next week is going to be Deadpool and Wolverine. We're going to try to get a review of that movie while it's still in theaters. If you've watched my channel, which you should, you already know my non-spoiler thoughts of it, but we'll go more in depth with spoiler stuff and all that. It will be me and Nate and possibly a guest. Noah will not be here next week. He'll be on vacation. So we're just going to see if we can get a third person as a guest for that week. After that, we're going to do our bad movie of the month, which I don't know if it's actually
the
going to be
Wasp
Ant-Man and the
Quantumania.
Wasp.
No,
It is. Come on.
We've already decided.
This. Yeah.
Okay, fine. So we're going to do that, and then we're going to go through September, and then once we get to October, it's going to be horror month, and we're all going to pick horror movies. And that's going to be fun.
If you have suggestions for horror movies, by all means. We do need one terrible horror movie, so by all means, if you have a horrible window for us to watch, by all means.
There are a lot of terrible horror movies, so that should not be.
Yeah, we should be able to find
one.
Yeah,
it should be pretty easy to find one there. But
all right,
I
guys.
think,
Yeah, and then
It's
November is
good.
going to be back to normal programming. We'll take a week off in November for
Nah.
Thanksgiving, more than likely.
Thanksgiving month. Thanksgiving movie month.
Oh yeah, my favorite Thanksgiving movie, Spider-Man from 2002, starring Tobey Maguire and
Yeah,
Willem
where he
Dafoe.
beats an old lady with a stick.
For the cranberries, can't forget about the cranberries.
Oh, yeah.
We're gonna watch Spider-Man, and then we're gonna watch Freebirds.
Man,
And
we
then
really
of course,
don't know how to end on one of these, do we?
no, we're ending. We're ending it here. We're just going a little long. Of course, we've got December, which will be our Christmas movie month, more than likely.
Yeah.
And stay tuned
Die Hard.
for the final. Yeah, Die Hard, greatest Christmas movie. Stay tuned for the final episode of the year. We're probably gonna do our awards of the year, be like favorite movie that we watched, favorite movie that came out, stuff like that. Stay tuned for that.
Nate's
then
probably
watch
gonna pick some
Quantumania.
shitty movie. Nate's probably gonna pick some shitty movie like
Nate's gonna be
Fury or Born.
My,
No,
my
it's gonna be
favorite,
Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania.
it's my
Quantum.
favorite movie of Quantum. Can't say anything right now.
This is just three
this,
dudes.
this podcast is just full of dudes who have no idea how to pronounce anything.
Yeah, pretty much.
So tune in next week, guys.
Yeah, with all that said, we appreciate you guys listening. Stay tuned for next week. This recording us again on a Thursday. It'll come out on a Saturday. Episodes come out every Saturday. And
except when they don't.
Except for when they don't. Make sure you follow us on Instagram at the Uncut Version Pod. Follow myself, Noah, and Ryan on Letterboxd. It'll be linked in the description of the YouTube video. And we'll see you guys listening next week.
All right. Catch you guys later. Peace.